Oh, what's going on, GameLeap? This is the Jizz, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 15 best top laners for patch 12.2, which hit the Rift today. So these champions are going to give you the best chance of winning for the next 2 weeks, so make sure you stay tuned for the whole video. And for each pick, we will give you the runes, the summoner spells, the items, the skill orders, everything you need to play these champions at a high level. And starting off the countdown, coming in at number 15, we have Mordekaiser, who has typically been a very strong champion in lower elos, but he will be even stronger this patch, regardless of the elo you're playing in, because of the Rylai's Crystal Scepter buff. And even though it might not be one of your first 3 items, so ideally you want to be going Riftmaker, then Steel Capsule, Merc Shreds, and then Demonic Embrace, so getting Rylai's after this makes more sense. And because you're getting more HP on the item now, and it's 2600 gold, 400 gold cheaper, this spike is going to come around sooner, and the HP is going to synergize with Demonic Embrace's passive. This means that all of that HP you're getting, this is going to get converted into AP, so Mordekaiser is going to be very scary to play against for 12.2, and also note how most people are running Ignite as their second summoner spell. Because of the teleport change from last patch, it means that for the laning phase, the top lane is really a 1v1. It really means that the top lane is an island, so you really want a second combat summoner spell so you have a better chance of winning lane and therefore the game. This is just more important because of that change. But beating Mordekaiser to number 14 is a pretty standard top laner for the most part, and this is Trundle. And ever since Lethal Tempo got buffed for melee champions way back in the preseason, Trundle has been a mainstay on this countdown. But in 12.2, Lethal Tempo is getting changed for melee champions. So instead of giving you a flat 13% attack speed per stack, depending on your level, you're getting anywhere from 10 all the way to 15% attack speed. So to be honest, it looks like a bit of a nerf because you're only getting 2% extra and 3% less in the early game, but 10% is still a ton. This is easily enough for Trundle to dominate the top lane and still be the best level 1 champion on the Rift. Remember, your Q is still counting as a stack, so it's impossible still for enemy champions to duel you in the early game. Now the rest of the page here is very standard with Sundra, Frozen Heart, Wits End, Hullbreaker. It really depends on the enemy champions you're against, but the Spellblade passive with Sundra, this is a must buy. But just ahead of Trundle coming in at number 13, we have one of the most banned champions on the Rift, and this is Irelia. And you'll notice here that because of the lethal tempo change, we're recommending you to go Conqueror. Because the stacking is now back to 5 seconds, it gives you way more opportunity to keep this stacked and therefore just out-trade your opponent. But there is one slight bit of misinformation on your screens. Instead of running Teleport, I would highly recommend you guys to run Ignite, because just like the Mordekaiser, the top lane is becoming more of an island, and we're playing Irelia to win lane. We're not playing a tank like an Ornn or a Malphite where we want to influence the map more. We're playing Irelia to dumpster our lane opponent, so taking Ignite as second combat summoner spell is going to be big, so make sure you do this in your games. Now as far as your mythic and core items go, it's very standard with Blade of the Rune King and Shield Bow. Even though Shield Bow did get nerfed last patch, it's still in a good position, and then building whatever you need after that depending on the enemy top laner and team composition. But one champion who's performing a little bit better than Irelia in terms of the win rate department, and to be honest is probably just stronger than Irelia, this is Jax coming in at number 12, and for Jax we are indeed running the new lethal tempo. So 10% in the early game isn't going to really change the laning phase that much, but get this, at level 15, when you get to 15% for each stack for tempo, this is when Jax is really strong. So your scaling almost harmonizes a lot more now with lethal tempo because you're getting more attack speed later in a game. And just like I mentioned for Irelia, taking Ignite as your second summoner spell is for sure the preferred option, because remember, Teleport, it's only really useful during the turret plate phase of a game. Taking Ignite gives you the kill potential during the laning phase, so you can snowball and win via split pushing, which is what most of these top laners are all about. But ahead of Jax coming in at number 11 on this countdown is a bit like Trundle, one of the mainstays of the top lane best champions countdown, and this is Urgot. And this patch, nothing is really changing for the god. You know, you're still going Hullbreaker with Titanic Hydra, you're still maxing your Purge because it synergizes with the Cleave passive from Titanic, press the attack, second win Overgrowth, and just like I mentioned for Irelia, please do not take Teleport, this is a bit of a bait. Taking Ignite or even Ghost could be an option because Urgot, one of your big weaknesses is getting kited, so it might look a bit weird, but Ghost is a very underrated summoner spell, or you can just be more alpha and take Ignite, so if you do land 1 Q or 1 E, the enemy champion is almost 100% dead. But starting off the top 10 is a champion who was one of the most powerful champions on the Rift at the moment, and this is Akshan. And one of the reasons Akshan is so good in the top lane is because you're a ranged champion. Lots of champions just cannot deal with the pressure you have, the range, the harass, and when you take Ignite, it pretty much seals the deal. No enemy champion can deal with the damage you do during the laning phase, and even though Shield Bow, just like I mentioned for Irelia, got nerfed last patch, it really hasn't been the worst thing for Akshan. But you will notice in the top lane here how Akshan mains are maxing their Q first and not their E, which is what you do in the mid lane. So maxing your Q first is going to give you more damage or more poke and harass, and because they're melee champions, it should be really easy to land this on a consistent basis. But another Rylai's Crystal Scepter abuser is beating Akshan to the number 9 spot in the countdown, and this is the Donger. And for Heimerdinger next patch, even though Rylai's is not listed on here here are the items in the bottom of your screen. The reason why Rylai's would be so good on Heimerdinger in the top lane is because of the slow it's giving you, and it's now 2600 gold. This is so cheap for an item that is going to allow you to keep these melee champions at arm's length so you and your turrets can deal a ton of damage in a safe position. But a bit like some of these other champions, I'd also recommend to take a different summoner spell to TP, because winning lane, this is what we're about when we play Heimerdinger. Teleport doesn't have the same effect it has during the laning phase like it used to. So maybe taking a summoner spell as simple as Ignite. This would be better because it's giving you more kill potential and therefore more winning lane potential as well. But ahead of Heimerdinger coming in at number 8 on this countdown, this is the number 1 top laner for 12.1, and for Shen, he is getting nerfed in 12.2. So what's happening, your Twilight's Assault damage, you are now dealing less damage based on your opponent's maximum HP. And in the top lane where lots of champions are going to be building HP as part of their kit, this is definitely going to have an impact during the laning phase, and you're not going to win lane as hard. And this is really the intention here, because Riot have stated, we're lowering his damage as a duelist instead of bringing down his cross-map power so that his unique global presence remains his most powerful tool. And this, to be honest, is why Shen is so broken. When we're going Ultimate Hunter, which is reducing your Stand United's cooldown, because you can actually point and click to an allied champion who's in a fight, you get to the fight ASAP. Most champions in the game have to rely on teleport to do so, so you're one of the few champions who has a global ultimate like this. This is also why we're running Ignite, because we don't need TP, we have the Stand United, and Ignite gives us more kill pressure, and also a bit of setup too, so if your jungler comes and you land one taunt, that enemy champion 100% dead. So Shen has to be considered, and it's also kind of interesting here how Shens are running Demonic Embrace as well after their Frostfire Gauntlet. Remember, with Frostfire, the mythic passive is giving you HP per legendary item you have, so this is going to synergize with Demonic Embrace's AP damaging passive, and because Shen does have magic damage in his kit, and lots of top laners are going to be building HP, this is going to deal a lot of damage to them. But ahead of Shen coming in at number 7 on this countdown, this is Victor. And you might be like, why is Victor in a top lane countdown? Well, the reason for this is because Victor, believe it or not, is actually getting buffed. Now, not directly, because that would be absurd, but one item that he used to build all the time and is really a Victor special is Lichbane. This is getting buffed, so what's happening is the ability haste, it's now giving you 15 instead of 0, and the spellblade damage is scaling more of your AP, and the cooldown is also down to 1.5 seconds. This is huge. For a champion like Victor who loves to use the Lichbane spellblade passive with his discharge, this is an incredible buff, and to be honest, will probably be built as a second or third item. And in the top lane, just like we mentioned for Akshan, lots of champions you play against will be melee champions, so it's a pretty free lane just to scale and abuse the enemy melee champion who's going to have a rough time dealing with your poke and harass. But one champion who would definitely like to see Victor in the top lane just because it's a nice matchup for him, this is Tryndamere coming in at number 6, and for Tryndamere with the new lethal tempo in 12.2, so you're getting more during the later stages of a game. Honestly, this is really nice. In the early game as well, we're still getting Berserker Screeds, so the drop to 10% is not going to really mean that much. Just remember that when you do play Tryndamere, you're taking Ghost and Flash. We don't need TP, especially after the change, and we're also maxing our Q first. We're all about out-sustaining the enemy champion. Now we're into the top 5 top laners for 12.2, and kicking us off, we have a champion who is still one of the most broken in the entire game, and this is Camille. And the rune page really hasn't changed all that much in recent times, so it's still Grass the Undying, and we're still maxing our Q first. Everything is really the same here, and I don't think much more needs to be said. Camille with Divine Sunderer, Ignite TP, it's up to you if you want to run TP or not. You can still run Flash and Ignite if you want to, but just like Trundle, Camille with the Spellblade passive from the Shen and then Divine Sunderer, with your Precision Protocol, especially the second hit of this, it still deals way too much damage, and because in the top lane lots of champions are going to be building HP, it hits even harder. So Camille is once again one of the premier picks for the top lane, but beating Camille to number 4 in this countdown is a champion who is going to really enjoy the new lethal tempo change, and this is Kayle. Now Kayle is really a ranged champion. In the early game, we don't worry too much about the lethal tempo for melee champions because we're all about scaling, and what's happening for ranged champions is exactly the same as what's happening for melee champions. So in the early going, it's dropping down from 7% to 5%, but once you get to level 12, for each lethal tempo stack, it's going to give you 9%. Now to be honest, this is a big buff, and you can also see at the bottom of this page here, Rylai's Crystal Scepter built as a 5th item. Now because of the buff next patch, even though you're losing a bit of AP, the slow would be so broken on a champion like Kayle. This would proc off all your auto attacks with your E, and this would allow you and your teammates to obliterate the enemy team, especially in the late game, once you do get to those 9% lethal tempo stacks. So Kayle, to be honest, you could probably put her even higher on this countdown, so watch out for Kayle in 12.2. But ahead of Kayle coming in at number 3 on this countdown is another champion who is going to love the Rylai's Crystal Scepter buff, and this is Singed. And you can see at the bottom of your screens now, with Demonic Embrace as your first item, and then if you go Rocket Belt, maybe following these 2 items, then with Rylai's Crystal Scepter is going to give you the most reward. Because remember, as we talked about for Mordekaiser, with Demonic Embrace, the HP, the extra HP I should say, you're getting from Rylai's, this is getting converted into AP. And that goes for the HP you're getting from Rocket Belt too. So buy the 3 24 item stage. You are just going to be such a force to be reckoned with, and because Rylai's is just better for AP bruises in 12.2, Singed has to be considered as one of the best picks for any top laner. Now you'll also notice here the 58% win rate in Master and above when people are running Flash and Ignite, so no TP, no Ghost, Flash and Ignite is the way to go. This is going to give you the kill pressure, and because you are building a lot of damage, this is just much better for this type of Singed gameplay, so this identity has to come in at number 3 on the top laners countdown. But beating Singed to number 2 is a champion who I don't think most people are going to disagree with, and this is Darius. And because the top lane is more of an island, it's more of a 1v1, who on earth wants to 1v1 a Darius? I mean, some champions might for sure, but for the most part, people are probably banning Darius, or they're dodging if someone locks him in, because he is just so hard to beat. And really this has been the case ever since Riot changed their stacking for Conqueror back to 5 seconds a few patches ago. This synergizes with Darius's W, remember that's on a flat 5-second cooldown, and also his passive, the bleed, that lasts 5 seconds too, so it's just so much better for Conqueror Darius in the top lane. This is why he is the runner-up. But who is Darius the runner-up to? Well, I don't think most people would have guessed this champion, and by the way, if you want to master any of the champions on this countdown, guys, make sure you check out the GameLeap website in the description and comment section. Our challenger players and coaches upload up to 20 videos a week for our subscribers to get that exclusive access, improve, become challenger, so check out those links. And the number 1 top laner for 12.2, this is Cassiopeia. And it might sound a little bit weird, Cass coming in as a top laner, but it's true. She is such a pain in the you-know-what to go against in the top lane, and because Rylai's is getting buffed after you get Leandri's, Xerath's Embrace, Sonya's, then Rylai's Crystal Scepter, who is going to be able to gap close to you? Who is going to be able to stick to you? Because you're a ranged champion anyway, you already have that space advantage. Rylai's just makes it impossible for an enemy champion to get onto you or to even escape. If you land 1 Q with this setup, especially in the late game when you do have so much damage, because you scale so well, it is over. And what I also love about this page is running Ghost. No TP, no barrier, no exhaust, no ignite. Cassiopeia, you can get kited, and you are kind of a short range champion, especially into some team compositions, so Ghost gives you the mobility to stick to those enemy champions and also to dodge skill shots and just evade the enemy champion's damage. So Cass is the number 1 top laner, guys, for 12.2. Let me know in the comments any questions about these picks, and if you do find this series useful and you want it to continue, please let us know by leaving a like down below. And until tomorrow's daily upload, this has been the Jizz.